Welcome. We are here today at Block Space, presented by Tezos at South by Southwest in Austin, Texas. We are joined today by some amazing panelists to talk about a area of the traditional art world that is really kind of coming into its own, one reason or another, through the existence of NFTs and kind of the Web3 movement. We're talking about the digital art market. Today, we are joined by Felix and Kate, and I will actually give them a few seconds to introduce themselves, and then we'll jump in. Kate, you want to kick it off?
Thank you very much. I'm happy to be here to speak. My name is Kate Vass. I'm a founder of Kate Vass Gallery. We are based in Switzerland and Zurich, and we are focusing on generative art and digital art since 2017. So we've been kind of a forerunner for the NFT and Web3 related exhibitions, and we've been the pioneering gallery who has been showing NFTs physically since 2019. And the first blockchain show has been given in 2018, where we've been introducing CryptoPunks as a physical works for the first time. Yeah, so just a short intro. I also run a consulting company which is related and consulting about the collection management, NFT, art advisory, and sustainability.
So Felix here, very honored to be here. Also good to see Reed again. So Kate is a OG, as a gallery in generative art, in NFTs. For me, I got into crypto quite early. I bought my first Bitcoin back in 2017. And really I just got into NFT art early last year. So it's only been a year of a wonderful journey for me. And so I run two crypto projects, ARPA chain and also Bella protocol. We are actually not doing anything related to art. We are more building the blockchain infrastructure, building verifiable random beacon that support random numbers to blockchain games, generative art, lotteries, and also finance. So the random beacon is one of the use case that we have. And also we are in DeFi, we build Uniswap v3 simulator that helped with the back testing and also a yield aggregator on top of Ethereum. But I got into NFT art last year, and actually I'm a big supporter of Hikanunk and also now Taya.art. I really love the community, and as a volunteer, I try to help here and there for the foundation.
Wonderful. Welcome, Kate. Welcome, Felix. I think a really good way to start off this conversation is just lay some foundational aspects. First of all, NFTs as a category of art is kind of a misnomer. An NFT is just a mechanism for buying and selling things. It's a piece of software. Artists are able to do different creative things with the blockchain that is given. But overall, the category of digital art has preceded for a very, very long time the kind of hubbub around NFTs and everything around that. And Kate, I wonder if you could just kind of give a little overview of what is the digital art market to the traditional kind of contemporary art world?
Tricky question. Well, actually, it's well, digital art, it's nothing new, it didn't it was not found yesterday or 1 year ago, 2 years ago. It has forerunners. It's been there are many art movements like Fluxus and Dada and conceptual art and I don't know, art as an instruction, from the beginning of 20th century, the different art movements have been kind of a predecessors for digital art. And of course, with the development of technology over years, over decades, since the 60s, 70s, 80s, with the introduction of more and more technological progress, artists have been just exposed to use different tools as a creative in their creative practice, to literally make a study and make their ideas maybe live in the different digital form as well, rather than just being limited to physical tools, so yeah, the history is huge. The history is long. So, and the traditional art market is, as we know, if we go to Art Basel, for example, if we go to TEFOF, if we go to different kind of beautiful art fairs, we see that the predecessors of digital art is there, right? We see a lot of works from 20s and 30s and 50s and 60s, Andy Warhol, like we have Solely Wheat, like exhibited also. So actually, it's not that far. So it's not really that traditional art market is completely unaware of digital art, right? It's not true. It's more like, supporting digital art from the historical perspective, and is there for any collector or the collector who wants to start collecting to look at the history, how it's all started, or where the contemporary digital artists have kind of getting inspiration from the history of art. So digital art is kind of more new native for the last decades, but it's again not really new, because we already have seen the photography is also that came with a technological progress that has been accepted as a fine art. The museum started to collect photography, many collectors had added up to their collections photography works. And then we've seen video when it's been introduced. Also, first everybody was like, how do you collect video? But at the end of the day, video works were also accepted and also started, to be added up to a very huge, famous private collections and museum collections. And digital art has been shown and exhibited for decades already, by smaller galleries or medium galleries or very specific galleries and museums who had only a focus on that kind of, movement. And as a traditional art market overall in the world, if we have looked like holistically, yes, it's just one of the components that is a kind of like a puzzle to add up to the whole holistic picture, So if it's missing, we are missing it a lot, but it doesn't mean that it can exist just by itself, because there is a history behind. So it's just, that we are all kind of, how do you say it in English? Supporting each other, like one movement supports another, completing, completeness. Exactly. So it is completeness. Yeah. And what else? I think I answered the question.
Yeah, and I think actually you covered a really interesting idea there, both about the photography, but it's the word tool,
Yeah.
and that when photography first came around and was slowly accepted as a fine art, and digital art for where it is right now, the tools that go into photography drastically improved as technological advances made lenses better, different types of lenses, different types of exposures, that actual digital cameras themselves from analog cameras as well. When we look at digital art today versus where it came from, it not being a new thing, being around for a very long time, every single technological innovation seemingly creates new opportunities for innovation within this art category. And Felix, I'm wondering if, just at a very base level, to give our audience a better understanding of what we're talking about here, what are some of the different types of digital art out there in the idea of different tools that are used to create it?
Mm-hmm. Got it. So I feel like, the tools that creating digital art has been has been existed for a very long time, several decades. People right now, like for example, generative art, a lot of the artwork are, are coded by P5JS or open processing. These frameworks were introduced probably in like 2 decades ago. So that was a long time ago. And I feel like, blockchain is also a fantastic tool for the transactions, right? So blockchain, it's verifiable, it's tamper proof, and there's timestamp. So, like there are several ways to do it, right? You can put a code within the smart contract, to fit the limitation of a smart contract. That's kind of strict, that by strict definition is, generative art based on smart contract. Or you can store it, in IPFS or in some other places, and you can do the transaction on blockchain. That's like maybe in most cases, for the current NFT market. So really, I feel like, you have the tools, that's advancing for digital art creation. And also you have the tools like blockchains, like other gadgets that support the transaction of, these artworks. And one thing that I find really interesting is, like in the past, digital artists is definitely underrepresented in the contemporary art world. However, like, there are so many creators on Instagram, on Facebook, on Behance, that they create, wonderful works. However, just because, like there's no limited editions, right? There's no scarcity, and there's no blockchain to facilitate the trade. Like these artists and these like even hobbyists are underdiscovered, right? Maybe they live in a third world country, or maybe they live in somewhere that they cannot get in touch with galleries that represent them. Maybe they are not so familiar with like how to get into the social ladder, how to get into the inner circle of the contemporary art world, right? So these people can be discovered or can be provided with a stage, in our case, like the NFT market. So that's why we see like the number of artists actually increases when, like, I believe when blockchain technology is more mature. So, so really like you have the tools for creation and you have the tools to facilitate the transactions.
Is there any type of elements of consideration around the actual artist, especially from both you engaging with artists a lot, both as from the gallery perspective and the collector perspective, of how does one master new tools in the digital art world, in kind of the idea of somebody who is a painter of a particular style, that has mastered a particular stroke, that is known for that stroke, has perfected over lots of trial and error. How does somebody who mainly uses machine learning or plotting, how do they kind of go about it? Is it mainly self-taught? Are there institutions that are helping kind of teach these new tools and techniques?
Well, actually, I think, it's really very individual. Some of artists, they come from the professional background, so they've been a designer, for example, or they've been working with animation tools or in film or elsewhere. Some of them, they've been working with code or with big data, with those sort of, machine learning already by the profession. And then, with the introduction of NFTs and blockchain, like the hype around it last year, many just dropped their professional jobs and decided to be a full-time artist, and those kind of cases, they're quite rare, but I see them a lot. And I think it's also very brave. But there are also a big amount of artists that they actually come from the academical, very traditional art schools, or they've been painting or using standard tools, as traditional ones. And then, with the introduction of technology, they started to use, for example, digital canvases, that they started to create. Then they started to learn teaching themselves, like, how to do the animation, how to do this and that, what the better tools, to create like maybe 3D, and then they just literally watch, they create their communities, they ask on Twitter, each other, please, can you help me with this? Oh my God, they see each other's works, they start to connect, and then they say, how can I be, how can I create similar things? Can you please help me? And this is also probably, that's why we see more and more communities engaging together, like Hikinunk, or, like Felix, you mentioned another one after Hikinunk, like artists DAOs or artist communities, they're trying to create something together, like, and learn from each other. So it's a mixture of both. But what also I see is, at least recently for the last 3 months, I've been approached quite a lot of times to do a free mentorship programs, for the artists who are either from actually both sides, the ones who are being more tech savvy, and the other ones, who are actually lacking the tech perspective, but they still want to market and want to engage into the NFTs, or to position themselves. And for example, Art Dubai, like they organized this mentorship program this year. I did a couple of sessions, and I was fascinated, by the amount of artists, asking questions, and they all come from different experience. But all of them still have some gaps, to fill in. Yeah, so I think, the space offers varieties. There's no like one single person who can say, no, it's only, they're all coming from the same background, and that's the beauty of it, I guess. I don't
Why
know,
do you,
maybe.
why do you
Yeah.
think that might be? Well, what is the overarching attraction of more artists coming and turning to, things like those residencies or mentorship programs to learn about these? What's bringing them to the art market?
Well, I guess the interest to actually facilitate the trade, right? To get some exposure, to finally reach their perfect collectors, to show their art, to be recognized, to learn more also, of course, the seek of knowledge is also there. But I guess everybody wants to understand if maybe they also can be found by Galerie, or if they can actually market themselves, just join in some spaces or marketplaces and finding the collectors base.
Yeah.
That's my
And
opinion.
yeah, and if we kind of take a pause there and really kind of level set at the idea of the collector base connecting with the artist, the traditional analog art market is very well documented of value of prominent artists, of institutions that support kind of those mechanisms as well. The digital art market does have that to a degree, but the changing landscape of technology, the tools that go into the digital art, has created kind of a world where you have artists that are on the cutting edge of things, that are using, just to go back to it again, machine learning or CAN plotting and many things, many tools and techniques like that. How do galleries and collectors, and Felix, maybe you can take a stab at this first. How do you stay ahead of knowing what is actually quality? What is something that took 400 hours to produce and wasn't made in an afternoon? How do you evaluate work?
Sure. I feel like, first of all, like this is kind of like two parts of the question. Is like, first of all, like where do I find these artists, right? There are so many people out there that, they have like wonderful creations. And the second part of the question is really like, how do I kind of identify like how much work is put into the artwork? So I feel like the first part is really like our industry, like the NFT, the whole NFT art, and even like the NFT like marketplace as a whole. We are still at infancy, very early stage. And I feel like there are more and more galleries, curators are getting, into the industry, and to help collectors, help these like art lovers, to identify, like the right artists. I feel like, because I live in New York, so like I talk to different galleries quite frequently. Like many of them are interested in NFTs. And I feel like for the NFT space, one of the big lacking area is how to tell the story. Like how do you also like give more awareness to the artist? How do you express the artist's real feelings, to the public? And then like a lot of the NFT artists, grassroots, crypto artists, they don't, they are good at, social engagement or like community engagement. However, they might need some help, in getting more awareness, like especially in the traditional art world, and plus like the mass media. So I feel like, galleries, curators can be very helpful there, to identify the artist. For myself, actually, like because I'm a big supporter of Hikanunk and Taya.art. So I have my own curated list on Twitter. So like I just, spend a lot of time there, follow these artist tweets. And sometimes if I feel like collecting, I'll just, go to their page and collect some. And in terms of the second part of the question, how do I evaluate the work? There are many ways. For example, for generative art or for like short videos, like it's very, I'd say like it's quite easy to see the quality because there are just like a wide variety of all different artworks. And if there are something unique, you can actually like, as long as you look enough of it, you can easily identify what's unique, what's not. And also like maybe like call for help from experts like Kate, like to really like see how the work is made. Yeah.
So Kate, what's the expert opinion? Oh yeah, go ahead, Felix. Finish up. Yeah.
Honestly, Felix, you are the expert. I just want to comment one thing. You say, well, it's actually easy. You can see that, this is the quality work because you can understand, that this is a beautiful, because you are a tech-savvy person and you are not, you understand the process behind, you understand the algorithm, you understand the kind of computer program that has been used to run the code or to create the work. So for you probably it's easy to identify that yes, this work is made by this particular algorithm, for example, and that's why you like it, because you understand behind the technology, or at least a little bit more about the IT. And then you say, and you can also say easy, that it's unique. Again, because you understand how blockchain works, you kind of already have this extra knowledge, which majority of collectors don't have, to say, I check a couple of things, I just, click a couple of times, and you already know how to differentiate. Okay, you see the history on the blockchain. Yes, it is unique. It was minted here and there. You know how to navigate the space. But again, because you are not a standard collector, I tell you, you have a lot of already extra features as a collector, and kind of extra knowledge that you that works as a benefit for you in this case, and then you kind of use it in a very smart way. When you feel like collecting, literally you just click and collect. If you have some attachment to the work, right? But majority of collectors, unfortunately or fortunately, I don't know, they don't have this relationship with the laptop, with the computer. They just, if they can switch it on, navigate through the email, look through the through some websites, buy something on eBay, and check out and do I don't know, some easy stuff, e-banking, then this is like a standard person. And then, yes, some of them already know more about the blockchain rather than 2 years ago. But in NFT space, majority of people just easily lost, you know, like, and it doesn't matter where they start, even if they go on Hikenung. I mean, it starts first of all, what kind of assets do I have that I'm capable to buy with, right? If I like something and I want to collect. I collect as well a lot. I mean, we have a huge collection with the gallery, and I also have my personal collection. And then I'm like, do I have Tezos on my account? I mean, before I go shopping, how many Tezos I have? And then I say, maybe I go to this platform because I don't have much Tezos. How? And then, you know, like you start thinking, do I have Ethereum? Am I Ethereum person, or am I a Tezos person? Or maybe I'm a Solana person, you know, like now we have all this beautiful choice. Or there are some collectors who says, no, I don't want to be exposed to cryptocurrencies. This is too far of a stretch for me. So I'm just going to stay in US dollars, or like, you know, fiat currency. I'm not going to say into US dollars. So I say, okay, I'm going to get out there. I'm going to browse around. If I like something, the more adventurous ones, they write on Twitter to artists or to the gallerist and say, can I buy your work with dollars? Or how can I collect your work if I don't have crypto? And then, you know, the adventurous ones, you know, who are not shy enough, and they can reach out to the collector, to the gallerist, or to the advisor directly, you know, then they are lucky to probably find a solution and buy with the work without even being exposed to crypto. But for that, they still need a wallet. They still need some tools, you know, like, or some support. And I've seen, for like 2 years ago, it was like a gallery, and there were like only 1 or 2 in the space who actually could facilitate the trade, or could explain and really try to educate the collector how to deal with this. Or it was, majority of the time, it was an artist himself or herself trying to support their collector, explaining how it works, giving some sort of, you know, crash course, how to navigate in the space, open the MetaMask wallet, top up the cryptocurrencies, or accept US dollars and then just transact the token, or even store the token for them, you know, like multiple solutions. But now, you know, like I see, of course, more galleries in the space, and more NFT advisors, you know, who, you know, people are very smart, you know, they see the opportunity, they take it, and they say, okay, now I can advise also a lot, you know, to help this transaction, you know, between the artist and the collector, to explain how it works. So you, Felix, you are really an exception. You are more on an exceptional side rather than on the average person who is just out there to collect.
Yeah, like I also want to add some color on like the bad user experience that the whole blockchain industry, like, or the NFT market has, right? So several weeks ago, you know, I was at one of the top collector, like the contemporary art collector's house, and you know, like the family wanted me to teach their twin daughters, how to collect NFTs, and then how to mint their NFTs, mint their work like into NFTs, right? So I spent like 2 hours to set up like Temple Wallet on Tezos, to set up MetaMask on Ethereum for their parents, right? And then to set up like Coinbase to buy Tezos and also to buy ETH, pass the KYC, which is very complicated, and then to buy some token, to buy some coins, transfer into Temple wallets, and buy some work on Taya.art. Also because Taya.art is permissionless, right? So I need to tell them like who to buy, who are the artists that's worth looking at. And then I also taught them how to transfer the Tezos into their twin daughters' wallet, and then how to mint on Taya.art. So the whole process took me 2 hours. And if I'm not like their good friend, they'll probably just cut me off. Like, it's just like the user experience need to be improved a lot, right? So there are so many people who want to buy NFTs with credit card, you know, with fiat, like you know, dollar or euro, and also like people maybe just want to get rid of the wallet. Yeah, maybe they just want to, you know, like try out like if they can register with email with like password. I think maybe Kukai has some features like that. But in general, the user experience need to be improved a lot. If our industry wants to grow into like 1 billion users.
Oh yeah, it's not friendly, really. That's why I think, when the whole idea of democratization of art market just found its concept, many, many years ago. And then, we saw marketplaces coming up and saying, let's eliminate all the middlemen and all the middle women like myself. Many galleries and many curators and advisors, they were like freaking out, like, oh no, how come, we are going to lose our job, we become really irrelevant. Oh my god, this is the worst, to become irrelevant, right? But they said, no, calm down, everyone, we still need it, because actually, you need some validation in between still, and none of the marketplaces have time or capacity to actually spend these hours of explaining this 2-3 hours to the collector, how it works, also to be an additional validator of, even there is a blockchain, to say, okay, this is the transaction, this is the token, went one place and came to the wallet of a collector. If something happens to the marketplace, if the artist didn't mint or didn't create a smart contract himself or herself, it was minted on some marketplace, there is also a risk of a marketplace, right? So if something happens, who do they connect? To the artist, and artist says, okay, the marketplace is missing, I can mint a new token, it's going to be a different token, it's going to be different marketplace. So, but we have to always think in advance, in the future. If I'm a collector, I also want to see inventory for myself, right? And not only for the blockchain, to evaluate these risks. So I can come to the gallery like myself and say, hey, something happened with the marketplace, but you sold this work to me. I have an invoice from you. I have a proof how much I paid, what has been the transaction, which kind of token has been transacted to me, this blockchain transaction state there as well. But I also can actually come to the tax authorities in 5 years and say, yes, that was how much I paid, this is where I bought it, and this is, yes, I registered, and this is what, like in my inventory, in my collection, and if something happens to the marketplace or else, I can also come to the gallery and ask, can you please support me? And create it again, to create this token and register and give me some sort of document as well, maybe, like to support this. I mean, so I think, there is still some sort of service that the gallery can provide to the collector, and also to enable them to transact in various currencies. If you want to transact in pesos, in US dollars, in Swiss franc, in pounds, doesn't matter. We will find a solution for you. If you need a holistic approach, that should be the approach of the gallery. You are literally becoming not only a galleries just to exhibit the work, but you become a financial advisor, a tax advisor, a kind of a art advisor, NFT advisor, and also like literally like 24/7 support to the collector, who can rely on you. And it's just, the relationship that is again the human factor, which is important.
So Kate, what you're essentially explaining here is that if you're having a physical gallery displaying and showcasing digital art, maybe even pieces that were specifically designed and produced for your gallery opening in the digital market, there's all these additional layers still, especially from the NFT side of things, that have to go through and explain for the traditional kind of physical art world collector to be able to engage.
Yeah, if they are not curious themselves, just to spice up their traditional art collectors, but they're willing to learn, they're willing to actually understand what is this hype about. I think of course they needed education. Education is missing, and as Felix says, it's not user friendly for now. So you have to be this sort of front to make it user friendly, or try to at least navigate them a couple of times, introduce them how it works, and then they learn. And once they learn, you know, like you literally set them free, and they have a freedom to collect on marketplaces, as well as on the galleries, as well as in Tezos and everywhere else. But somebody has to bring them to the space and guide them a little bit, you know.
Yeah. And, you know, I think that's a really good place to kind of press pause on the conversation and switch gears a little bit back to the art itself. You know, in the beginning, we talked about tools and techniques. And, you know, especially in the last, you know, half a decade, we've seen the emergence of generative art really come into play. Because of the new tools and techniques to create randomness, to create works where data sets are being manipulated by the artist to create something else. And, you know, Felix, I was wondering maybe if you could just kind of touch on, like, what am I talking about? How do you explain that? And, like, what is this world of generative art and randomness and data sets of millions of flowers being used to create some beautiful dynamic imagery?
Sure. Yeah, so like I'm a big fan of generative art. I minted and I collected a lot on art blogs, and also like one of the so actually two of the artists that represented by Kate Vass, Golid, and also Abaj. These are all my really like favorite artists, among my favorite artists. And in terms of like the randomness, because like my ARPA also does like random beacon, verifiable random beacon. So, and randomness is very important for generative art, right? So you want to have like randomness that infused into the minting of the generative art, and each like different randomness will create one piece of like unique art. So that's essentially what's the generative art is all about, right? The randomness. So I feel like, you know, like even I know that we should talk about more on the art side, but in terms of the tools, you know, like randomness and also better tools, like these are all very important for like, you know, for the development of generative art. And also it's also about, you know, transparency and trust. You know, how can you make sure that nobody can manipulate the randomness to get the beautiful works versus like the not so beautiful works. I think these are very important things.
And when we talk about those aspects, like, are there any artists beyond the two that you pointed out that are pushing kind of the boundaries? I guess the end question we're trying to get to here is, what is the next boundary to be discovered in the digital art market?
I think, you know, like we touched the generative art, right? But we didn't touch all other, like other mediums, you know, and new media art as an umbrella is also like generative art. What is generative art, right? It's one of the term how we use to describe sort of things, right? And how generative artists create works. They are like also term digital art and digital artists. What's the difference like? And there is a lot of confusion. There are also 3D artists, 2D artists, animation, video, photography, digital photography, augmented reality, which is also very interesting. This kind of, it's all different tools, right? But it's all digital. So just to kind of say that it's all digital because it's digital in natural work. So it means it's been purely created with the support of an autonomous machine, right? With the support or purely by the machine, when the artist is kind of given a sort of code and runs the algorithm through the sort of process to discover new aesthetics generated by different kind of algorithms. It can be GANs, like generative adversarial neural networks. It can be processing. It can be convolutional neural networks. You know, there are many, many different kind of codes, you know, algorithms that the artist can use as a tool. And some of them, they're experts in one, some of them, they're experts in many, and some of them, they're using those sort of algorithms to ask a certain conceptual or philosophical questions, like you gave an example of a Kevin Abosch, that uses these tools from the conceptual perspective, questioning the value, for example, of systems, and then seeing what kind of tool can support him to investigate this and this idea, for example. You know, and then you know, like really introduce the artwork which kind of will serve the best in order to present this concept. But there are other artists, like pure generative artists, you know, who would run the code to within a set of artistic constraints and literally guiding the whole process for a certain desired results. And the beauty of generative code, that sometimes it has its errors. And at the end of the day, you know, like there are also some errors that might come up as a result and surprise the artist. So, you know, you see there are different kind of approaches of how the artist work and uses the machine, regardless of the tool, you know, that he uses, whether from a conceptual point of view, and then he's looking for the tool that serves him, like a little slave, like Vera Molnar always used this term and saying, like, I'm going to use my plotters, you know, as little slaves, you know. But some of them, they're just running the code and experimenting of how it will visualize, you know, of what they're writing, what they're coding. Yeah, so I guess that's the difference, and that's the beauty of it, that it's all digital, like, because it's digitally natural, different tools, and different approaches. That's why we have such a great variety of artworks.
Yeah, Felix, any thoughts on that front as well?
Yeah, I just feel like, you know, I totally agree with Kate. You know, there's a whole variety of digital art. Generative is just one very small part of it. But I do feel like, you know, generative art is somehow more related to smart contract, if they can, you know, fit the code into the smart contract, very compact, and then so everything that's kind of living on blockchain, that's very crypto native. However, like, I do think the beauty of digital art is really about the variety, you know, like the short videos, anime, like art, generative art forms, like everything. So like, what kind of attracted me to Hikanunk is that it's because, like, the variety of the art. You know, you have glitch artists there, you know, you have people who does like machine learning, AI, using the algorithms to generate the art. You have like very famous generative artists on Hikanunk, and also you have, you know, just like digital artists in general. So I feel like, you know, blockchain really enables a lot more people to be artists. So one thing that really kind of moved me was like, on Hikanunk, 60% of the artists, actually more than 60% of the artists actually also purchase art from other artists. So people are helping each other. And a lot of the collectors, like myself, you know, I'll just like browse the web, and then like I'll buy anything that I feel like beautiful, you know, also because like the price is very affordable there. So like, I'm happy to support like maybe even like the first timer mint, you know, people who mint the first time. I just feel like there's nowhere else that you can find this kind of community.
Yeah, and I think the term democratization of art is loosely thrown around and has been for a while, but the prevalence and the explosion of the digital art market, because and through NFTs, has, as you just said, Felix, created the opportunity for a lot more people, not necessarily to earn a living, but to be able to explore their artistic talents and who they want to be and who they see themselves as an artist because of these opportunities, because of people collecting, because of people supporting an artist, supporting artists. And, Kate, I guess the question to you is like, what does that mean for the next few years and the next decades on, that we have more people turning to this creative nature, this creative opportunity? What will that do for the art world and especially for the digital art world?
Mhm. Sure. I think in general, blockchain is kind of flattening the whole organization structure, right? Like people talk about DAO, decentralized autonomous organization, because like everyone can do their part, do some contribution together as like a very flat, in a very flat structure, right? So that's the same with, with the like NFT art industry, because you have more and more people who used to be just hobbyists. They're entering the market, they're creating more contents, they're monetized. Some of them can monetize on their contents. Maybe like 1% of them can become professional artists, right? Maybe they'll quit their full-time job if they're successful at making NFT art. And maybe like among that 1%, maybe 1% of that 1% can finally become like the master of the contemporary art, of the they can go to world stage, be represented by the top galleries, top curators, enter the museum. So I just feel like the base is much bigger than before. So one thing I actually read on the within Hikanan community that really kind of moved me was, imagine a world that your parents who are not wealthy, they encourage their children to become artists. Imagine a world like that, it's going to be a better world. Right now, like I feel like, people who pursue professional artist route, they most likely they are from like a somewhat wealthy family. They don't need to worry much about their cost of living and everything. But with NFTs, more and more people can become, or they have the potential of become a professional artist. I think that's the most important thing. Maybe we can have 100 times more artists in number, more hobbyists in number, and just like 1% of those will become professional. And that will just like, that will increase the professional artist number by multiple magnitude, I guess. I hope, yeah.
As we kind of come up to the end here of the panel, I think we've really done a great job of kind of covering at the start, the background of the digital art market. This is not something new. However, the new tools and techniques, and Kate, you did a great job of listing off so many more, not just generative stuff, but animation, digital photography, and the list goes on. And that through that, the digital art market is continuing to expand. And even as NFTs create this new sense of awareness of it, there are still hurdles, acquisition hurdles, user onboarding hurdles, and just collectors who want to engage with it that don't know how. And so kind of in parting here, would love to just kind of pose the final question to you both of, where is the digital art market today? Where is it going to go? But how does it get there? Kate, if you want to kick it off, and Felix, you can close it out.
Oh, I want to give a positive statement, but I think Felix fits better for the positive statement because I don't have such a positive overview for the near future. I think there's still a big user experience is missing, like the big part. The user experience is still not perfect and actually too far away from being perfect. Also, for the exhibition experience, we are quite limited, even as a gallerist, as in institutions, not to talk about collectors, how to feel, how to live with digital art and how to experience and exhibit it, also. It requires a lot of tech support, a lot of good tech support and again, you know, a lot of financial support, because it's rather costly, you know, it's expensive to set up the good exhibitions without the proper tech frames, you know, like without TV screens, projections and stuff like that. And the really good quality ones, you know, not to kind of fail in this, you know, the resolution of the artwork or something like that, and to really try to market and exhibit the work in the right way, that the first time collector walks into this space and look at the low resolution, very strange flat TV screen, and there is some sort of JPEG moving, he would look at it and he's like, nah, not really, not for me, maybe because doesn't really touch me, you know. But if we can create something seriously cool, you know, for them, and they walk in and they feel something that they don't feel or never felt before, you know, once they look at the work, this is when we talk, or this is what I'm talking, you know, like the engagement with the collector, with the audience in a different way. And this is when we, you know, so we actually really need support from the hardware industry, from the IT, from tech sector, you know, to engage more and support artists, support galleries, support institutions, also maybe give us some sort of tools for the collectors that we can use also to experience and for the experience of artworks, of digital art. That will help a lot, but because we are still quite early at the stage, you know, where it might develop. And even if we talk about Web3 and experiences within this decentraland spaces, we did an exhibition in 2020 like that. But again, how many really people can visit that? You know, who has Oculus tool? Maybe 400, and that's it. And then, you know, yes, it is living somewhere there in the space, and you know, the more people get engaged, you know, into the space, and they buy Oculus tool, they can come in, follow the link, and go and look at this artistic experience. But you know, it's really like 1, 2, 3, okay, 400. But what is 400 in the, if we compare the whole world? So we really need to engage as a community from all different sectors to create something that becomes meaningful. Otherwise, it's just really sad. You know, we are trying to achieve something here, but we are still lacking the quality of other little tools. So yes, if we see a lot of artists, we have a supply of art and we have a demand of art, but we don't have tools how to exhibit it, how to experience, how to collect it, how to look at it, then this is a problem.
Thank you,
I
Kate.
really hope
Felix?
that I really hope that there will be more companies trying to support these kind of things, you know, and also the art market from both sides. I don't know, maybe Felix has a more positive message.
Yeah. Or Felix, you got time for a third company?
Well, like first of all, like I feel like, you know, I totally agree. I can feel the pain. You know, as a, you know, also as a collector, also as a friend of many traditional collectors who want to get into NFT market. I feel the pain, especially on the user experience, user onboarding side of things. But think about it, like our industry, like the whole blockchain industry is less than what, like several years old, right? So less than 10 years old, really, like from the birth of smart contract, Ethereum, that's maybe just, you know, 7 years old. And then from the first real application, which is DeFi, from to now, it's only 2 years old. You know, DeFi grew 1,000 times within, you know, in TVL, total value locked, within the past 2 years. That's like amazing growth. And then NFT market, from like the flourish of the NFT market was only from past year, right? So that's 1 year old versus the art world, which is several hundreds of years old. So we are still at infancy, first of all. I feel like there are going to be more participants, right? More tech companies, more tech teams that's kind of optimizing the user experience, faster blockchains, you know, more scalability support. And also in terms of like the stakeholders of NFTs, we can have more artists and more collectors, especially younger generation collectors who are more tech savvy versus the old generation. And then like, better liquidity because of the nature of blockchain, the nature of the marketplace, more transparency, like all the transactions is recorded on the blockchain. So in general, I feel like it's an effort, it's a collective effort, right? From the tech side, from the artist side, from the collector side. And we are also in the same, battlefield with the younger generation who are born to be digital native, who are born to be like computer or internet native. And I guess like maybe 10 years, 20 years later, they are going to be crypto native. They'll have their first wallet versus they'll have before they even have their first bank account. So these problems, I just feel like, over time can be solved. But also like, because I'm also an industry practitioner, I tend to be more optimistic. I hope all of them can be realized in probably like 5 to 10 years.
And that's a great that's the upbeat tone that we're looking for to close things out. The sun will rise, and I think that as a moniker for where the digital art market is going is a great way to end this conversation. Felix and Kate, I want to thank you very much both for your time today. I want to thank everybody tuning in virtually and everybody in the audience at South by Southwest at Blockspace presented by Tezos. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you very much, Rise, for inviting. It's been a pleasure to speak with you guys.
Thanks so much. Thanks, Reed. And thanks for Tezos for this awesome panel.